Resumes in Khartoum after a 24-hour ceasefire. Hello and thank you for joining us. You're watching Addis News Hour with the news. I'm Tabitha John. Stay with us. Leaders and high-level officials of the IGAD member states, including Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, have planted tree seedlings in Djibouti City as part of the Green Legacy Initiative. IGAD member states have continuously faced the harsh effects of climate change, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed noted. A tree planting session took place following the conclusion of the 14th Ordinary Session of the IGAD Assembly of Heads of State and Government held in Djibouti on Monday. The 14th Ordinary Assembly of IGAD Heads of State and Government Summit, which Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed participated, was concluded on Monday. During his stay in Djibouti, the Premier discussed with the leaders of neighboring countries on bilateral issues. He also participated in a tree planting activity with IGAD leaders held in Djibouti City. The Prime Minister concluded his visit and returned home. The following pictures will walk you through some of the activities of PM Abiy Ahmed during his stay in Djibouti. Take a look. The 14th Ordinary Assembly of Heads of State and Government of IGAD has reappointed Werkene Gebeyehu to serve as an executive secretary of the regional bloc for a second term. Quote-unquote, I am deeply grateful for the Assembly's full confidence in me as they have extended my tenure for a second four-year term. I congratulate Djibouti on assuming the chairmanship and thank Sudan for steering the organization during their chairmanship. Gebeyehu, who previously served as Ethiopia's foreign minister, tweeted, the decision was taken at the end of the 14th Ordinary Assembly of IGAD Heads of State and Government. Djibouti has taken over the presidency from Sudan, and the executive secretary has also congratulated Djibouti on assuming the chairmanship of the organization at the summit, replacing Sudan. Djibouti President Ismail Omar Guelleh also took over the chairmanship of IGAD after Sudan's term came to an end. Kenyan President William Ruto said his government is ready to meet the rival Sudanese generals in efforts to end the conflict in Sudan, which is in its 8th week. The dispute pits General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the head of Sudan's ruling council and commander of its army, against General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, who is Burhan's deputy on the council and leader of the paramilitary forces. Speaking in Djibouti City on Monday during the IGAD Heads of State and Government Summit, Ruto said the meeting involving the generals can be held face-to-face. Listen to him.
We have taken the decision that the quartet of Kenya, Ethiopia, South Sudan, and Somalia will, in the next 10 days, meet face-to-face with General Burhan and General Dagalo in a face-to-face engagement so that we can speak to them directly on behalf of IGAD with a view of stopping the war that is raging in Sudan, ceasing all manner of hostilities, ensuring that we have a commitment from them to stop the war that is going on in Sudan so that we can save the lives of the people, the infrastructure that is being destroyed at the moment, and all the other destruction that is going on in Sudan as number one. Number two,
mediators from IGAD are now South Sudan, Kenya, Djibouti, Ethiopia and Somalia. Ruto said the meeting would be held in one of the capital cities of IGAD nations, and within 2 weeks, they expect to secure a commitment from the two generals. Listen.
We have also agreed that in the next 2 weeks, we will discuss with the generals on providing a humanitarian corridor so that humanitarian support can be made available to those in need, especially the children, the women, the people who are hurt, and all other people that are currently caught in the middle of the conflict that is going on in Sudan. And number three, we have also agreed that in the next 3 weeks, we also begin the process of an inclusive national dialogue to get the people of Sudan the opportunity for them to
Welcome back. Foreign Affairs Minister Demeke Mekonnen welcomed Alfred Mutua, the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs of Kenya, at his office today. The two sides discussed regional issues of shared interest, according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Demeke Atnafu Ambulo, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Ethiopia to the Republic of India, presented a copy of his credentials to Anshuman Gaur, the Chief of Protocol at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of India in New Delhi. Extending his gratitude to the Chief of Protocol for accepting his copies of credentials, Ambassador Atnafu expressed Ethiopia's desire to further strengthen the existing friendly and historical relations between the two countries in a mutually beneficial manner. Chief of Protocol Gaur, for his part, highlighted India's long-standing and multifaceted relations with Ethiopia. He also expressed his hope that the existing good relations between the two countries will further strengthen at the time of the ambassador's stay in India, according to the Ethiopian embassy in New Delhi. Taye Atqaselase, foreign policy advisor to the Prime Minister with the rank of a minister, says the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, has given top priority to the need for the warring parties in Sudan to end all hostilities and attempt sincere dialogue. Atqaselase added that the horrific crisis engulfing the brotherly people and nation of Sudan was vigorously discussed, along with the serious threats it poses to this country and the entire region's survival. Kasaun Chani takes it from here.
On April 15, 2023, conflicts between opposing factions of the Sudanese military government broke out in urban areas. The fighting was centered in and around the Darfur region and the capital city of Khartoum. As of May 27, there had been at least 1,800 fatalities and more than 5,100 injuries. Rapid Support Forces RSF attacks on official targets marked the start of the conflict. All around Sudan, especially in Khartoum, there have been reports of airstrikes, artillery and gunfire. According to Taye Atqaselase, Minister Foreign Policy Advisor to the Prime Minister, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, has put a proposal on a table for discussion in response to these serious issues, giving top priority to the need for the warring parties in Sudan to end all hostilities and attempt genuine dialogue.
ይህ 14ኛው የኢጋድ መሪዎች መደበኛ ስብሰባ
The IGAD meeting was extremely fruitful. The first item was the approval of the IGAD treaty following discussions and assessments with those member states, and the majority of the meeting was devoted to the warring parties in Sudan. This summit took place at a time of great opportunity and encouraging developments in the IGAD region. The member states have already acknowledged the significant and favorable changes for the region's peace and security.
አሳዛኝ ግጭትን በሚመለከት በዚህ ላይ መምከርና መወያየት ነው።
The Foreign Policy Advisor Minister to the Prime Minister also emphasized how successful the IGAD meeting was and how it resulted in a decision that stipulated that before there can be a credible cessation of hostilities. He also noted that Ethiopia's involvement in this regard was given top priority.
ኢትዮጵያ እንደ ጎረቤት ሀገር የሱዳን ሕዝብ መከራ የሁላችንም መከራ
Considering all of the serious issues in Sudan, IGAD stated that Ethiopia, as a neighboring country to Sudan, had a very important duty to stabilize the peace and security of the Sudanese people. The high-level delegation was established for this purpose by the leaders of the IGAD member nations in a bold move.
ስለሆነም ኢትዮጵያ ተካታለች። ስለዚህ የኢጋድ አግባቢ አካል አሁን ወደ ኳርቴት ወይም ወደ አራት አድጓል።
He claimed the extremely serious nature of the violent crisis engulfing the brotherly Sudan and the grave concerns it presents for the survival of this nation and a whole region were vigilantly discussed.
Ethiopia's Resilient Recovery and Reconstruction Framework, 3RF, presents a clear way forward with a structure and a common response plan to effectively meet the critical recovery needs of the Ethiopian people, Minister of Finance Ahmed Shide said. Speaking at a recovery and reconstruction conference, Shide said following the peace agreement, Ethiopia is looking ahead to rebuild, rehabilitate and revitalize communities and economies across the whole nation. Shagao Yamato has the following dispatch.
Ethiopia's Recovery and Reconstruction Conference was held on Monday, which was aimed at discussing the recently completed damage and needs assessment report and recovery plan for Ethiopia. Higher government officials, chief administrators of regional states, diplomatic corps, representatives of development partners, among other pertinent stakeholders attended the conference. Speaking on the event, Minister of Finance Ahmed Shide said, following the peace agreement, Ethiopia is looking ahead to rebuild, rehabilitate and revitalize communities and economy across the whole nation.
Today's launch of Ethiopia's Resilient Recovery and Reconstruction Plan, what we call the 3RF, reflects on what has been affected by the conflict. It presents a clear way forward with a structured and common response plan to effectively meet the critical recovery needs of the Ethiopian people. This recovery plan, which aims to address not only the needs in the conflict-affected regions, but also the overall macroeconomic issue facing the country at large.
The minister also indicated that the recovery plan will be implemented in tandem with Ethiopia's 10-year development plan as well as the second phase of the homegrown economic reform agenda, adding the government of Ethiopia has allocated a budget for this fiscal year dedicated for the reconstruction and recovery needs.
A good plan alone is not enough. For this reason, significant emphasis is placed on how the reconstruction process is undertaken. Good governance, monitoring, accountability, and communication will be critical to ensure that recovery programs are effective, meet the demands of the people, and foster trust and confidence. The 3RF lays out clear guiding principles and mechanisms that promote, among other things, transparency, inclusion, citizen engagement, and enhanced fiduciary control mechanisms and timely communication.
The minister further stressed that Ethiopia will continue to implement reforms that focus on macroeconomic growth and economic stabilization, as well as enhancing the role of private sectors in the economy. That includes removing macroeconomic imbalances and creating sufficient physical space for the government to finance effective recovery.
Ethiopia will continue to implement reforms that focus on macro and growth and economic stabilization, as well as enhancing the role of private sector in the economy. This will include removing macroeconomic imbalances and creating sufficient fiscal space for the government to finance an effective recovery. A strong recovery will also require a vibrant private sector. Ethiopia will continue to work and improve to restore business confidence.
The damage and needs assessment quantifies the conflict's direct damages to physical assets and economic losses on livelihood, social infrastructure, and productive sectors, as well as the macroeconomic and poverty impacts. The report also identifies the total recovery needs estimated at $20 billion over 5 years, it was indicated.
In business news, Ethiopia racked up more than $1.1 billion from 210,000 tons of coffee exported in the last 11 months, according to the Ethiopian Coffee and Tea Authority. Although the produces presented to the foreign market and the revenue it fetched has relatively gone down to a certain extent, the outcome is encouraging compared to the constraints, said Adunya Debela, Authority Director. He indicated that the activities of increasing production and productivity, maintaining quality, modernizing the transaction, and ensuring fair use will continue to be strengthened. It is to be recalled that some $1.4 billion was obtained from 300,000 tons of exported coffee in the 2021-22 Ethiopian fiscal year.
Welcome to the land of origins. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia is pleased to serve all your traveler banking needs. If you have money from any of these 16 countries, you can convert it to local currency by visiting our nearest branch. Alternatively, our secure Forex ATMs accept cash exchange, or if you prefer using your cards, we've partnered with Visa, MasterCard, and UnionPay so that you can withdraw cash from our local ATMs or make cashless transactions at thousands of local POS partners securely and with confidence. We are linked with more than 700 global banks through our direct SWIFT address, CBE Teta. We also work with 16 international money transfer agents, out of which Tune and WorldRemit enable you to make direct deposits into our savings and current accounts or our popular CBE Birr mobile wallet. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia, the bank you can always rely on.